you know this is Man? I'm here with Tammy Boyer, the winner of the Blue Eye Screenplay Contest. She's an independent filmmaker, among many other things. Welcome. Hello.
Hi, thank you so much.
Now, the first one, you wrote a very touching essay about a widower alone missing his wife. He goes to a bench. He waits for his wife, who is deceased. I don't. Hopefully, I'm summing this
Mhm.
up sort of correct. Very touching story. I really enjoyed it. I read it in the sauna, and I like to be relaxed. So I'm in the sauna, and it relaxed me, and it was kind of a somber vibe. Well written. Anyway, what inspired this story?
This was inspired by a actor friend of mine that had popped up to me and said, "I have an idea. Could you see if you could write a script on it?" And he told me of a friend of his where his brother would come back to visit a bench where him and his wife had first met, and she had
Hmm.
passed away a few years ago. So I kind of ran with that idea, but I wanted to put in the other aspect of how not to judge a book by its cover. Just because something may look suspicious or sinister, it necessarily isn't. So, but the whole bench idea of waiting for the wife, that had come from an actor friend of mine, Will.
Right. So for listeners, the guy's writing he's waiting on the bench for his wife. Now I left out the part uh a woman nearby thinks that he might be like a child predator, a creepy guy waiting on the bench looking at the kids, but he's not creepy. He just thinks his wife's gonna come back and has like dementia or Alzheimer's, correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
that he has his off days for sure. So
Got it. Really cool. Okay, so we'll go with the next. Now, routines for filmmakers and writers. For me, I have pre-writing activities like working out, drinking water until I float away. So I usually pee every 20 to 40 minutes on any set or creative project. Ginger coffee, it's like a mad scientist experiment over here. Now, as a writer, performer, filmmaker, do you have pre-writing or pre-performance routines?
no, not really. I am very new to this. As I kind of started out late, I'll be turning 56, as we were talking about, and
Mhm,
I
I
kind of just
asked.
yeah, that's that one, yeah. Because where just started 2 years ago, and the other two that I had, the first short script I had was something I found from probably 40 years ago I wrote. So I kind of redid it. And then the second short one I was another idea that my mother had gave me, who's 80 years old. So somebody gives me that idea in my head and I'm kind of like, oh, let me think about it. And more or less my stories spin off in my head and then I have to get it down on paper. But it could just be somebody talking in the lineup about something. It could be, a friend mentioned something, and just that sentence will give me the idea for it to work in my head of, okay, well, that's a great sentence. What would happen if I put this in it? So not really any kind of, it's just things that I think of, and sometimes it happens in my sleep. So, so
You picked
but
up that
nothing.
piece that you wrote 40 years ago. Did you read it and you're like, this is awesome. I want to meet this girl? Like, how did you feel about whoever wrote it?
Yeah, it's because well, as I said, being 55, 40 years ago, even 30 years ago, I was never the person I am now. But who is, right? When as you grow older,
Hmm.
I used to be someone that was, jump when you're asked to jump and how high. So when I read it, I was in a very dark place at the
Oh,
time that I read this, and it had to do about a little light. And I figured out the light was my way of getting out. So when I picked it up out of a drawer and was like, oh, what's this? And I started reading it, and it kind of was like, wow, like to see how far I've come as a person from then
mm,
to come into my own person of who I am, and not be who I was back then. So yeah, when it had won here in the Maritimes, it's called the Jane LeBlanc Filmmaker Award. When it won that, and I was like, what, who, what, me? Really?
huh.
Like I won
Wow,
it.
wow.
So, and each time I won something, I was like, what, me? Who? So it's weird because I haven't been at it for a few years. So I guess that confidence isn't in me to say, like, yeah, I won. It's kind of
Right.
like, what? Me? Sure, really? So it's cool to see that this one won, and hopefully this just progresses with everything I do.
You could say one thing to your former younger self, what would you tell her?
Oh, wow. Because now that I'm older, I just don't care anymore. So don't worry back then of I would say back then, don't let your light fizzle out, let it shine, and don't let anybody take it from you. Just be who you're going to be and be happy with it, and it's nobody else's concern.
Yeah, yeah. I feel that more and more. As they say, when you turn 40, you start to feel that way. And I'm 39.
Mhm.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's what the word on the street. It seems to be true. Now, similar question. The things we love to do as adults, we often enjoy doing as kids. Now, you started writing at 54, not too long ago. Did you want to write as a kid? Did you write as a kid?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. This is something that's, well, I do acting too. So
Mm,
that's something that I've always, and back then, because my mom was a single parent, and we certainly were not on the higher scale of money wise. We were pretty low income and stuff. So she just didn't have the resources to put it in. But if I had started this all as a kid,
mhm,
I confidently can say I know I'd probably be in Hollywood by now. So it's
mm,
something that I've always done. I mean, I was the person that was, back in my day, you had these little cassette players with a microphone, and I'd be going around being the news reporter, and I would cut out cardboards and make a TV, and I'd be the TV reporter. And of course, I was Cher out of Sonny and Cher on the
mm.
poster bed, doing Sonny and Cher and making my family laugh. And what are you laughing at? But yes, I was always and always have been an entertainer and a storyteller. So, and the storytelling just got more as I got older. So I love to entertain. I love to make people laugh. It's so weird because everything I've done so far has made people cry. But I like to make
Yeah,
I like to make
yeah.
people laugh and tell stories.
Now, you said something about, oh, I could have been in Hollywood. I'm just gonna say a quick aside from that. This is just my opinion. I'm sure, every opinion nowadays is controversial because the world is shifting.
Yep.
As you probably know, I mean, Hollywood was created a long time ago, and a lot of people say, it's involvement with the government or the CIA, but they picked Hollywood because you could film all year. Okay, that makes sense. But it's this fake worlds to distract you and to give you a respite from, I think, wartime, but it's all fake and it's all BS. Now,
Mm-hmm.
for me, I'm all about the truth. So for me, I have no interest in a world of fakery, and I have a lot of truth. And so, but my point is really for you is that I don't think you missed anything. Let's say you're going to be around for another 20 or 40 years. I say Hollywood's overrated and it's kind of dying, and the way streaming services are and the way the world is changing, I don't know if there will be a Hollywood in 5 or 10 years. So maybe there will be a Boyerwood or something. Just a quick
I,
aside,
I instead of Hollywood, I should have said actually Toronto or something, the Canadian version of
Sure.
Hollywood. Let's put it
Or
that
the
way.
internet, because
Because
maybe you
the
might not have to
yeah,
be anywhere. Now, I
exactly.
mean, I'm in all these movies, they're streaming all over the world. Like, you could be anywhere. Who knows?
Yeah.
We'll find out. Okay. Now, could you tell us a story that you're dying to tell, or a story that you think people need to know about? Do you have that inside of you?
Wow, that's a good one. I do have a story that I this would be kind of like the second short film with the bench, which I'm
Mhm.
hoping to start production on that this summer and get that done and finished and out there. But I would like to do a feature film. I do know a feature film is a heck of a lot more because I am still learning as I go, especially when it comes to the whole production
Mhm.
of directing and getting the script ready and the breakdown and the actors and locations. There's so much to it to learn. But I would love to do a feature because I do have a story in me, kind of like a, how would you say, a truth but exaggerated sort of thing. So it's
Okay.
based off of my family, that I would like to get a story out there based on family incidents. But of course, it would be exaggerated, but just exaggerated on certain events that I think would make for a great story. So I'm currently working on that. And I'm also working on another thing that I'm actually going to put into a TV pilot um, competition, kind of like the Canadian version of Golden Girls that are in their 50s. So it will be a total comedy with one-liners, and of course the older woman being funny as heck. So
So the purpose would be funny. That would be one
yes,
of the driving forces, which leads me to actually one of my last questions, which I've been thinking about a lot of the last day. Because I don't know if a lot of performers, writers, actors, comedians concern themselves with the audience. I really don't know because a lot of times they're just not really that enjoyable to watch, and I wonder why they do it. So my question to you is, do you concern yourself with how entertained your audience is? Like, what concern do you have for the audience reading your work or watching you perform? How do you relate to them?
I yes, I guess I just want them to feel, to
Okay.
to be able to have an emotion, whether it be like, oh my gosh, that scene was just so heart-wrenching, or that scene brought me to tears, or I never laughed so hard, or my gosh, I can relate to those two girls. That's like me and my best friend, or something. I mean, me as a moviegoer too, I definitely want to spend an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours watching something that I'm thoroughly going to enjoy. If I'm going to be bored and feel like my 2 hours was wasted, it's like, no, that wasn't such a great thing. So yeah, again, it comes from entertaining people. I have two children. One is 33, one is 15. Yes, they're 18 years apart, and I was totally crazy. But anyway,
Ah,
my 15-year-old, because I love doing my own skits on Facebook, and I edit them and stuff. And I just
oh,
put them out
cool.
there because I just want to entertain and just want to make people laugh. But of course, as my 15-year-old says, well, that's what Facebook is for 50-year-old moms. I'm like, well, I can see where you're getting your humor anyways. But, I want to put my perception out there to be able to make people feel, to be able to relate, to have some kind of emotional pull that they can, or whatever it may be that they can, to whatever I write or whatever I make. So
What do you want them to feel? What kind of emotions do you have in mind, or do you have any in mind?
whatever the script that I like, the briefly that my second one called A Better Place. As I said, that was based on my 80-year-old mom who told me a story that her friend died when she was small and
Mm.
she couldn't figure it out. So I took that script and ran with it and did a scene where she sees her friend, and there's like a angel sequence where she's going, and it was just so powerful when my production team was done that scene. And whether anybody believes or not, just the scene itself, the way the sun was, the way it was done, it just was like, oh. And when I showed it, people were just like, oh my gosh, like it's something that was just powerful that they could relate to, of how beautiful the scene was, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I can do that in the next script about these women that are like a Canadian Golden Girls, if I can have a one liner that people are just going to burst out and say, oh my gosh, like that's so my mom, or that's so my best friend, and I can relate,
Uh-huh.
that's friendship, that's warmth, that's the power
Right.
of women. Or if it's going to be another sad thing, like with the bench, there could be a scene there. When we did the read with the Blue Eye screenplay, they made me cry because I never
Mm.
heard it out loud. So when they did it, I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, you guys, you made me cry because it was good. So
Right,
if
right.
yeah, you want to be entertained, you want to feel and it feels something. So
You know, you did that. You're right, because now I think back to being in this room over here in the sauna reading, and at the end, there's a man who's lonely waiting for the wife, and then there's a mother and daughter. They're suspicious. Well, the mother's suspicious, but at the end, the suspicion is gone, and now the man finds himself with companions in the little girl and the mom. And I thought, for me, I thought that so you did that feel and you did the connection for me because sometimes, I'm busy a lot of times, but when I have the time or I'm in the present and I'm somewhere I need to be, I'm there. Like I'm with you right now. And
yeah,
Yeah, I like to have a real deep connection and maybe to talk to some people that generally aren't talked to, or maybe not the thing that you normally would do.
Yeah,
And there's a random guy.
exactly.
So you're being nice to him and showing him kindness, and he's looking for that. And yeah, yeah. So I don't know. That
So
was
it's
just
all
the
about
part for me.
connection.
Yeah, there's my
No, for
rumbling
sure, it's all
rant.
about
Sorry,
connection.
Mark. Sorry, editors. We could cut that part. Let's go back to you. All right. So we're basically at the end. Hmm. All right.
Yeah.
Now, based upon
Hmm.
the subjects you were strong in elementary, middle, or high school, did you think you would grow up to win a writing contest?
No, no, actually no, because between that time until I found the script, this was never in my forte, I guess, until I found that script and read it, or that it's actually was supposed to be just a short story. And I found it and I was like, I can switch this into a screenplay.
Mm.
But from then to then, none of that stuff really happened. I did theater for 10 years, but it was always behind the scenes as a stage manager. So having those skills did help when going to production. But
Yeah.
no, I never thought about it until I got it. And I just dived right in both feet and just doing everything I can behind, on screen. So yeah, I never thought I would, but I love it. Love it.
You could tell there's a lot of detail and nuance, and if someone doesn't love something, they kinda just call it in, there's not that detail there, and you did write a touching story, so, good job on that. We're at the very end, but I wanted to slip in maybe something you could answer in 10 to 30 seconds.
Okay.
What things would you like to write about, but maybe you're too afraid or embarrassed or it's taboo, or maybe you're like, "Ah, yeah," but you would kinda want to, or you might enjoy it, but you won't or you don't, or I don't know, something that maybe you're
No,
like,
that's good. Probably more and I don't know how to word it. And I'm just
Whatever.
more women related, female issue kind of female empowerment. Like just have more female things out there to talk about female life,
You
friendship,
wanna do that.
that kind of thing. Yeah, more of
Okay,
that.
okay,
Yeah,
okay. Yeah, yeah, I could use more of that. Alright,
yeah.
on that note, that leads us to the end of the interview. You made it. You made it. I know when I ask my mom questions in daily life, she acts like I'm interrogating her. I mean, obviously, that's her, but I think I do have that way about me, so you made it through the whole interview with all my
You were
questions.
fantastic. You were not. You were
Thank
fantastic.
you.
No interrogation. No.
Thank you so much. Thank you for letting me read your story and creating it in the first place. And I hope you enjoy more creations in the future. And could you please tell listeners where you would like them to follow you, find you, websites, any of that, socials?
Yeah. You can just look up my. Actually, my Facebook page right now is about the only place I have anything. It's just Tammy Boyer, Boyer, and I do have YouTube, but I'll put it on there because honestly, I don't remember what it is right now.
That's okay. I was like that until like last year or the year before. I'm like, what's the
Yeah.
handle? What? Huh? Uh, you can change it, by the way, if you don't like it. I figured that out 2 years ago. Side note for anyone listening, because mine was really wrong and inappropriate because I made it when I was drunk at like 6 in the morning after winning a dance off when I was in college, and that does not work. But on that note, thank you for listening to It Came From the Radio. Thank you to Tammy in health and back to the studio, Mark.